All right, guys, if everyone can mute themselves, we hear a gorgeous clock. I don't know whose that is. It sounds cool, but it might be a little distracting. All right, friends, we will go ahead and get started. It's 11:01. Thank you all for joining. What we're trying to do right now is just offer a little bit of advice and best practice from some of the experts in our Wichita community and surrounding communities. And so we're deeming this succeeding in uncertainty, and I feel like we have some really spectacular guests lined up. So just a couple of housekeeping things, and then we'll get into it. I'll get out of here and try to get this streaming on Facebook. And so really, my love language is social media, right? So if you could, I would love for you guys to take pictures and share and shout out and show others in our Wichita real estate community what we're doing, and that we're gathering in a safe way and still learning from one another. The next thing is that there is some silver lining to these crazy times, and part of that is that we are getting creative in our businesses. We're being forced to do things that we otherwise might not have done, or we might have been procrastinating, and we're having a little bit of time to slow down. I think maybe even you top producers, you're seeing a little bit of a shift in your business, but you guys have weathered storms before. This is nothing new. This is new, but you've been through the storms, and you're going to get through this one as well. So real quick, I also will be sending an email to all of our participants afterwards, really just a housekeeping email asking for feedback, giving you a chance to schedule a meeting if I've not been able to meet with you yet, and just a couple of other small little things. This is the time for me to be really working on my business and refining my systems, similar to all of you, so I'd certainly appreciate that feedback. And then next, I just want to introduce a couple of people. First, I want to introduce Lainey. Lainey is in Canada. She is our Wichita Real Producers editor. And you'll actually see in our next publication that's headed your way, you'll see actually an editor's note from Lainey. So if you've been featured, you very well know Lainey. I couldn't do this without her. She is a godsend. But she is safe in Canada right now and joining us. And so feel free to reach out to her or to say hello. But first, I would like to introduce a very special guest. Our first speaker here is Miss Marsha McConnell. And Marsha is actually our president of our Kansas Association of Realtors. Up there, Carr is working hard and doing some great things. And Marsha has been so kind to join us and just to give us a little bit of insight. And full disclosure here, I didn't give anybody talking points. I said, I chose you 5 people because you're amazing. I love you. And our community needs you right now. They need to hear from you as leaders. And so we'll just take the floor. Everyone go ahead and mute themselves. And Miss Marsha McConnell, let's introduce you. Let's everyone see you.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Sam. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. Although I did put on. That's the thing about working from home. You don't necessarily have to be dressed up, or at least waist up. But no, great opportunity to share. And one of the things I'd like to say is, keep on keeping on. As top producers, you know that during the down times, you keep working on your business, you plan, you educate yourselves, you learn more and more about anything that you can. Right now, we've got the CARES Act out that's going to impact some of our buyers and potentially some sellers down the road. And so it's important for us to understand how that act is going to work and how that will impact our local, not only our buyers and sellers, but also us as independent contracting agents. There may be some of us that have to apply for some of those benefits as well. So I would encourage you just to stay abreast of everything that you can. Your state association is continuing to watch and monitor things very closely. We were working feet on the ground in Topeka when the governor was preparing to do her first executive order and determine who would be considered essential services. And so we submitted a letter to the governor. I signed that and we sent it the day that she was preparing to make that. And we were fortunate to be included on the essential services list so that we could continue working those contracts and things that were in process. We could continue with closing, working to get to close Mike Brown is also on this today. Mike and the title companies have been working tirelessly trying to make sure that they can get to the courthouse, get the title research done, get the information we need so that we can close and do so with no excess liability. I do want to say that that is your RPAC dollars hard at work, and I hope that each and every one of you is a strong supporter of RPAC, because we are as the Kansas Association of Realtors, we are the largest PAC in the state. And because of that, we have influence and we have a seat at the table anytime that those kind of decisions come up. So if you're not an RPAC supporter, I would certainly hope that that would be something that you would strongly consider making a donation to or supporting, because it is the arm of your profession that makes sure that the things that are done legally and legislatively allow us to continue to work without a negative impact to us and our buyers and sellers. So, you know, we are in unprecedented times, as Sam said to start with, and so even though we've all had downturns, the downturns have been from a variety of things. A lot of the things that I've been watching coming out from NAR have been talking about the fact they expect the housing market to rebound quickly as long as we don't have a prolonged shutdown of things. There is not even though we are in a recession, the housing market is not in difficulty. Back in 2008, when we had a recession, the housing market was also in trouble. We were having the credit crisis at the time. We were having a lot of unvalidated loans. You know, you could just state your income was a certain level and they just took that. And so we don't have that background that we did back in 2008 and 9 when we saw so many things suffering and sales suffering so badly. So they're really anticipating, if the shutdown or this stay at home is not an overly long extended period of time, that the housing market should rebound very, very nicely and have a pent up demand and be ready to move forward. So I would encourage you all, again, just be prepared to go forward with that. We've seen some troubling things on some of the FHA rates, but there are some that are still, you know, still low. So investors are a little goosey. They don't want to make a loan and then have someone turn around and not have to make a payment for 3 months, you know, for 90 days. And so they've increased some points and some of that kind of thing to get in if somebody still wants to proceed. But you know, there's inventory out there. We can be working on improving our skills, our video skills, switching to the virtual. And I've got to do a Facebook Live, get some virtual open house walkthroughs done. That's not ever been one of my strong suits, but I'm going to have to push out of my comfort zone too. So anyway, I'm privileged to be here today. I'm excited to hear some of the things the others have to say. It's a privilege to serve as your president of the state this year. And I want to assure you that the KAR staff are absolutely second to none. And they're doing a good job. Even though they're also working from home, they're in touch with what's going on in Topeka, what's happening in the governor's office, and they're making sure that all of us are involved as well. We implemented this year a new communications platform through the Kansas Association of Realtors, and it's called The Buzz. And you can get on Buzz. You just go to kar.buzz and sign in, create a profile. And there is a general room in there for everyone. There's a room for each of the committees in there as well. There is also a community in there for the COVID-19 information. It's got best practices and suggested things that have come out from NAR. And there are also the Hold Harmless form that we've developed, and the COVID-19 form that we have buyers and sellers sign. And again, this is optional. Your broker can decide whether or not to utilize that. But there are forms and things in there that you may want to check out and use with your transactions. So please feel free on kar.buzz. And it's great information. A lot of people have really had positive feedback about it. And it's real-time communication. It's there, it's updated daily, oftentimes several times throughout the day. So I guess with that, I would answer if there's any questions or anything that, or I don't know how you want to do that, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. So I haven't allowed everyone to ask questions, that you guys can just go onto the chat and ask me a question and I can relay that. as needed. And so I see the chat box is open. I don't see anything there. I can type and you guys can kind of see. I don't know if a lot of you are, some of you might be super familiar with Zoom. Like Lee, I know you've done this for a million years already, but thank you, Sunny, for saying hi back. So yeah, anyone that has a question or concern or anything that you'd like to follow up with, let me know, put that in the chat box and I can relay that message. Other than that, let me accept a couple more guests here. Other than that, I'd like to move on to some of our Realtor, you know, until maybe perhaps we get any questions, Marsha, I can move on to some of our Realtor panelists. And
Okay.
if a question pops up for you, I'll you know, take that at the appropriate time, direct that back towards you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, or anything, any calls to action you'd like to give us, or anything else to close?
You know, at this point, I would just say continue to work on your business and yourselves. Use this time. It's not really downtime. Maybe it's an opportunity to just refocus and determine what's important in your business and plant those seeds so that 30 to 60 days from now, you're reaping the benefits of that hard work.
I agree. Yeah, tough times do not last, but these tough people will. And a lot of these tough people have been through these before. All right. Thank you so much, Marsha.
You're welcome.
So next, we've got Mr. Cleve Smith. I see you there, sir. If you could unmute yourself. So for those of you that don't know Cleve Smith, he is a Realtor Emeritus, which means he's been doing this at least 40 years. I think 42 or 43. You can correct me if I'm wrong there. But Cleve is our immediate past president of our Realtors of our RSCK, Realtors of South Central Kansas. Everybody knows Cleve's name in town, and he's so well respected and loved, and people think very highly of him. And I know he's weathered dozens of storms, and I was really excited to that he accepted this proposal. And I guess just take it away, Cleve. Tell us whatever you'd like to tell us. Oh, you're on mute, Cleve. Let me see if I can unmute you. Oh, Cleve, I don't have any audio for you. So I'm going to have you, I'll have you work on that. Natalie, Miss Natalie Moyer, are you ready to go?
You bet.
Okay, I can hear you. All right, so Cleve, we'll have you work on the audio part of it. I'm not catching that. So then, okay, moving on to Miss Natalie. So Miss Natalie has also been highly involved in our local and in our state level as well. She's actually right behind, she's on Marsha's tail here to be our next president of our Kansas Association of Realtors. And she's also our associate broker at Reese Nichols, and serves on our RSCK board of directors down there at our Realtors of South Central Kansas. And those are just a couple of things. There's, you know, a much longer list of all the things that Natalie has done and what she's involved in here, but she also has been around for a long time and has weathered these storms. And I was very excited to hear from her and that she would participate. So take the floor, Natalie.
Oh, sorry. Okay. A couple things just to clarify a little bit. So I'm looking at some of these names and faces on here, and I know that several of you have done this a whole lot longer than I have. So I really haven't weathered a storm. I was naive enough to get my license the third quarter of 2008. So some of you remember it well. The beauty of it was I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I knew nothing but hard work. I apparently, you know, it was a really bad time, but you know, my goals were, wow, if I could sell one house a month, I mean, that was just going to be really exciting. And financially, you know, positive as well. I was a paralegal for 20 years before I went into real estate. So that was all I knew, was you work hard. This COVID-19 has been a game changer for me. I'm used to being able to go and do and socialize and see lots of these people. I should actually probably be headed to DC for NAR conference shortly, and that's not happening. So yeah, we're having to do some different things. And You mentioned my involvement with the Realtors of South Central Kansas and the Kansas Association of Realtors. I'm also involved with the National Association of Realtors. And one of the things I did want to clarify today is I saw my name on the flyer and it said Realtors of South Central Kansas. I am a board member there, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the board today. This is just anything I'm sharing is my own opinion and my thoughts. So just to have that disclaimer. But yeah, what's changed and what's different and how am I spending my time? Right now, I'd say I've kind of just tried to put my head down and not listen to all the external negative news and do my business. Back to the basics. I do try to follow. I don't do it religiously at all, but I follow Larry Kendall with ninja practices. I wish I could tell you I did it just, from top to bottom every single day, morning. It doesn't happen. But I think right now what I'm trying to spend some time on is, again, running my business like a business. I know some of you do it so successfully. Christy Friesen, I see you on here. You're one of my heroes as to how well you handle things. But taking some time and really looking at where do I spend money? Where do my automatic, deposit or withdrawals go out that I've signed up for some realtor, something that, do I really need that? Am I utilizing these tools? Focusing on my education. To me, that is very important, not just locking in those required continuing ed hours, but spending time to develop myself as a realtor. I'm working on my C2EX. Some of you may have no clue even what that is. It's a really great education program with the National Association of Realtors. And then also picking up the phone and calling my clients. I mean, not texting them, not liking, a thumbs up or whatever on Facebook, but really talking to them. And I remember I was at a conference years ago and one of the speakers, he showed a PowerPoint slide of a ringing phone to remind us to use that, not to text, not just to email. So I always try to make a habit of, you got to call your clients with the good news and you also have to call them with the bad news. And you don't want to be the realtor that you've texted with them throughout the entire transaction, you've electronic signatured everything, and then you're calling them because you're headed to closing and the deal's fallen off the tracks. So when they hear from you more often with the good news, with the bad news, they're more comfortable and included along the way. And I don't know what else I would really share. I mean, I'm happy to talk about, I'd answer any questions, but to me, this is a time just to get back to the basics. And a surprise for me has been having my two college kids living with me now. So I have my own little sorority here. And that's taken some getting used to. And I am always very office oriented. I go to the office, sun up to sundown. I like to work in the office. So this working from home has really been a change for me. But I'm kind of getting in the groove and I kind of like it, but that's been a real change. And thank you, Samantha, for putting together this. I'm just happy to see some faces. So I'd answer any questions, and if somebody wants to hear more from me, I'd be happy to chat. So I'm going to mute myself now and pass the mic.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. I did put into that chat box if anyone has any questions that they would like to address towards you or even back towards Marsha, please let me know, put that in the chat. Otherwise, we can move on. So next we're going to have Miss Kim Bischler. And so Kim is also a legacy realtor, if you will. She's been doing this for, her parents did this as well, her mom. So she's been licensed for 34 years. She is an associate broker at Keller Williams Signature Partners. She serves on a couple of different boards and is very active within our local community and in our state community. And so with that, she serves on the finance committee at RSCK and then helps with government affairs and professional standards at the Kansas Association of Realtors level. And then we'll let you go. We'll take you take the floor. I am seeing a couple of questions from Christy, and we'll get to that in a moment, my sweet Christy, wherever you are. But Kim, go ahead, take the floor, share some best practices, some things that maybe you've learned, where you see our real estate, community now, and where is it going, and just provide some leadership and insight.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I want to capitalize on what Marsha and Natalie and Cleve has sent me through osmosis. At this point, more than ever, if you have not contributed to the Realtors Political Action Committee, now is the time to make that a budget item. The reason why is, with this change, it's different than anything else we've gone through. No one on this panel, no one in this room has gone through a national pandemic where we are confined to our homes. However, we have gone through ups and downs. Natalie mentioned 2008. She was smart enough to get into the industry at the downtime, and she didn't understand what time on market did depressing. She didn't understand all these things. The Realtors Political Action Committee is our heavy hammer. As all of this stuff starts to come around, we are going to see our Political Action Committee be the voice. Yes, we can whine and carry on about things we like and don't like about what we do every day, but that's our hammer. We are seeing right now, how are lenders getting verifications of employment when everybody's shut down? Who's doing lending? I just heard Florida isn't giving loans. There's entire states that are shut down right now. Kansas is one of them. Making sure that we've got the hammer that keeps us in business and we don't become a legacy like travel agents. We need to be giving back to our Political Action Committee. So I would strongly encourage you all, while you're looking at your, as you can tell, dieting is a big thing for me. So what I've been doing is I've been calling everything around me a budget. So I've been calling myself a diet. I've done a media diet where I'm fasting from the media. I don't need to know the count. For 24 hours on Wednesdays, I take the day off the media. I don't look at CNN. I don't check what's going on the local media. It's happening and I can find out about it the next day. Give yourself a mental break and get off the media. While you're doing that, look at your budgets. Natalie mentioned there were things that were coming out of her checking account that she didn't know about. All right, maybe she knew, maybe she didn't. Check your accounts. I can tell you on my account, I'm paying for a car wash subscription on a car I don't own anymore. I never recognized that. So doing this budget fast or this budget diet, look at those dollars and make sure your dollars are going to something that you believe in and you trust. Natalie also mentioned, now is the time to call your clients. I can tell you, I make it a goal to call 25 clients a day. After about 8, I'm exhausted. I'm just tired of hearing they're out of toilet paper. And I'm tired of hearing their paper towels, and I'm tired. So I make 8 calls to my coworkers. I'm calling you guys and I'm asking you guys, how's your day? What do you need? How are your listings? What can I do? Because we are the network together. So don't feel like you only have to make these calls and get drained down. Give yourself some energy. Give yourself a mental break. And that's really what I would like to focus on with my talk. Be kind to yourself and to others. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. All right, so I know that we have a couple of little chats over here, and I think that everyone actually can see these, which is good because I can see you guys interacting. But I guess, Chrissy, you started that off there. Has anyone had any luck with the EDL or the PPP? And Lee, I know, Lee, you've got clients all over the nation. You said you've got one here in North Carolina that has received the funds, and then several others. And, this is only day 5. I think that they released another $2 trillion as of this morning. And so it really is just a patience game. And I know that probably a lot of us could agree that, you know, they've said that they're giving this money away. Now they need to get out of the way and let you lenders do what you need to do, and then allow our banks to get that going. So if anyone would like to mention any more about that, please do. Otherwise, I'd love to move on. And we can go to, again, Mr. Cleve Smith. We've got everything figured out. So I think that you're ready to rock and roll, sir. Are you ready?
I think. Have you got me on the screen there?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you. Take it away.
All right, great. Well, I have, you know, been thinking about some past seasons that I've been through and many trials in this industry since 1972 when I first started. And, you know, the highest and probably the longest trial that we went through in the real estate industry was from 1979 to 1985 when interest rates went to 18% because our Federal Reserve Chairman decided he was going to stop runaway inflation single-handedly by raising the long-term interest rate debt. Some of us have been around long enough to remember that you think 8 weeks is bad, try 8 years. We survived the 80s, but we did it in a variety of ways. We studied up on, because we couldn't get loans, we had to study up on constructive financing, or we called it, some of the people called it owner carries, but it was alternative financing in its finest form. And so in these times here, I can look back on those and I remember that, as you were saying, to make it better for yourself, to study articles or study for yourself. What we realized in that period of time was that the people who are strictly trying to live on commissions, when the commissions go away, where do you go? Well, fortunately, at that time I had 41 people under me in a franchise, and they wanted to go back to work at Boeing and Beach and wherever they had left their jobs to become full-time realtors. So the attrition was terrible. We lost several people. They stuck it out for 6, 12 months, something like that, and then it just didn't go down. So they went back to work. They had to support their families, and certainly we understood that. But the ones that were able to hang in were the ones that became knowledgeable in property management. They started managing some of the properties that they couldn't sell. Some of the properties became so that the people had to move, and there wasn't financing for buyers to buy houses. Now it's just the reverse. We have low interest rates. We have a market where it's a seller's market. So how do you adapt? So you reach outside the box and you start looking at different ways. And one of the things that really became prevalent for us survivors, and that was that to get outside of the box and get outside of that commission box and start buying houses, even if you have to buy them on owner carries, or you go to the bank and set up a line of credit and you start picking up some rentals so you have some additional income. And just we set goals to say, okay, well, how many properties would I have to manage at 10% a month to be able to at least survive and feed my family? So we set goals on how many properties that we could at least put in the pipeline. So what worked out for us was everything that we put in the pipeline. At one time, one of our guys had 40 properties that he was managing. And when interest rates came back down in 1986 and 1987, guess who was sitting on 40 listings that he had managed for 6 years and made a living on? So as you think about that, investing in real estate has always been the way to survive in real estate. If you're going to strictly try to build your customer base and strictly try to, and some of you are top producers, and God bless all of you, but, you know, when we have an economy that lasts like this and they're predicting, you know, long term, have you diversified? Do you have other income coming in to be able to survive in case there isn't buyers out there, or the buyers dry up, or we can't get financing? So look at other ways to support yourself so you can keep them realtor dues paid and keep active. With that, I'll remember the time that we had lobbyists at the National Association of Realtors lobbying really, really hard for those years to try to get those interest rates back down. But they had set those wheels in motion without And honestly, NAR, NAR kind of got blindsided on that, but they didn't know it was going to last that long. And so they were playing catch up. Here in this case, where NAR is ahead of us and they're ahead of the game, and out there on the forefront, and our lobbyists are doing a great job in Washington right now. We have some great representatives in the state of Kansas. Ron Estes is on our side, and he's really pulling for us on the realtor side. And we also have a great president that's working for us, working hard behind the scenes, a great NAR staff. And we support the RPAC by I've heard it called contributions. I've heard it called donations. It is not. It's an investment in your industry. If you don't have somebody fighting for you and advocating for you that knows what's going on and keeps track of what's going on in the back chambers before those bills are introduced, and they're not on top of them. Marsha mentioned earlier in the broadcast how she was able to get that letter to Governor Kelly in time for us to be considered essential services. Well, some of the boards weren't so lucky. That happened to them, and they were kind of behind the curve, and they had to go back and petition them to be able considered essential services. So even if it's only $15 or $20 or $25 that's on your annual dues bill when you go to pay your local board of realtors, go ahead and leave that on. Opt in to make that investment in your industry, because those lobbyists and those people are working really hard to keep us in the business. So that's my pitch. Diversify. If you can get into property management, if you can do that and you don't understand how to do it, there's lots of books to read on it. Also, there's another way that you can buy properties. You can go to the bank and I want to say the last thing here that really helped us survive the 80s, and I was thinking about that this morning, and that is get debt free as quickly as you can. So in these times, the last thing you want to be is a slave to a debtor, somebody that's coming after you trying to get money, and you're focusing all your attention on trying to survive and keep your head above water. It's a lot easier if you've got any equity in your home, or you can buy a house that you can get some equity in, and just go ahead and use other people's money. We've always said the OPM, other people's money method, is the way to survive in real estate. Don't use your own money. So if you have any equity in a rental property, you have any equity, take that money, pay off all your credit card debt, pay all your short-term debt off, and get those high interest rates behind you. And you'll feel a lot more comfortable every month when all you have to make is a mortgage payment and maybe a car payment, and you don't feel that stress. And then the last thing on that was people feel that stress. When you're stressed and you're trying to make ends meet and you're dealing with the consumers, it's hard to mask those kind of feelings and those kind of emotions. So it is a lot easier for you when you don't have that debt and that stress on top of you. Even if you're not in real estate, you're listening to this, get out of debt as quickly as you possibly can so that you're not subject to the economy. Every time something busts, you can't pay your bills. So, gosh, I'll be happy to, field any questions. I just wanted to pass some of those things along to you as encouragement to stay in this business. It's a long-term career, and I want to take this opportunity also to Sandy McCray is our current president, and she is the one that is just leading the charge on this. We are all family. This is her theme this year, that we are family. We're a realtor family. One career a deal does not make. We have to keep doing business with each other throughout this career. And remember that it is a career. It's not a job, a job, journey of the broke. You'll never be president. If you start looking at yourself as the president of your own company, how would you treat your employees? How would you treat the people under you? Well, that's what your family is. Your realtor family are those people that you're associating with. They're your colleagues, they're your comrades. So encourage you to get involved in the association, involved in getting to know your people one-on-one on committees, or as a director candidate. If you feel like you'd like to step up from a committee and be on the board of directors, we'd certainly invite you to do that this year. So I'll end with that.
Thank you so much, Cleve. I think those are really good points. Those are probably things that we might not have been thinking about. but will be very useful. So I really appreciate your time, and thank you for getting the audio. All right, well, I would love to hear from Mr. Mike Brown downtown. Mike Brown, our Senior Vice President of Security First, and we just couldn't be, as Realtors could not be continuing to function without him and his hard work and everyone that's behind the scenes there at Security First. So thank you to the moon and back, Mike, for joining us. Take it away, sir.
Well, thank you, Sam. I just like to say how this year has been very unplanned, but very prepared for at the same time, I think, with all of us across the board. Nobody had this on our plan for 2020, but as this rolled out and as this occurred, everyone's been very resilient to changes. Here at Security First Title, it's been business as usual. We're still doing closings, we're still doing title work. The pipeline is still getting taken care of at the end of the day. However, we've seen lots of procedural changes to keep up with this current environment that we're in. Some of the stuff might stick around, some of it might not. I'm not quite sure yet. One thing I've seen is that we've had lots of technologies that have been available for a long time are now getting utilized a lot more. And that's a good thing. You've seen, if you haven't seen yet, some of our closing options for signers have evolved. We're doing curbside signings, and so the signer can stay in their car. Our closer will come out and greet them at their vehicle, present them with their documents, witness their acknowledgments, and notarize those documents from the comfort and safety of their own vehicle. We also, if they come into our office to sign their instruments, we do practice social distancing. We've taken measures to tape off certain distances in our closing locations, hand sanitizers, wiping doorknobs. And so, please, 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 when you see our closers, please know how hard they are all working right now, keeping up with disinfecting, keeping up with answering questions to consumers. We sent out an email blast on March 23rd. It looks like that here. And if you did not get it, you can go to our website at security1st.com and get up to speed on our current COVID procedures and options for our closings for consumers. Like I said, we're just doing what we can to be socially responsible and do the right thing. These procedures are very much modeled off the instructions given to us by our local and national authorities at this time, and just doing our part to keep everyone healthy and safe and their anxiety, within check as well. As you can imagine, we see all types of different people come into our offices wanting to come sign, and their anxiety levels are all across the board. And so I think I have felt and heard from our staff that our procedures we have in place today are keeping everybody comfortable. They seem to have lots of options available. We have mobile notaries available, so if someone doesn't want to come to the office, they're quarantined or stuck at their home or somewhere else, there is an additional fee, and it's also based on availability, but a mobile notary can go to them and get those instruments signed as well. So that's an option that a few have taken advantage of, but the curbside sign has been pretty popular, I think, with a lot of people at this time. And I'm open to questions as well, but I think at the end of the day, like I said, it's been surprisingly business as normal. We're still closing transactions. Our volume levels are staying where we think they should be this time of the year. I think the refinances have helped out with that a lot, but when I look at my purchase numbers as well, we're not seeing that much of a dip in purchase either. So everything's just kind of staying steady with that, which is very good. It shows the confidence out there in the marketplace as well. And I'll be interested to see where that goes in the future. And we're keeping a close eye on that. But right now our staff is busy. They're working with these new procedures in place, of course. So, but if you have any questions about an upcoming closing and you just want to kind of get up to speed on that current procedure with that closing office, with that specific closer, please reach out to them if they haven't reached out to you already. All of our closing locations are kind of like homes. They come in all different shapes and sizes, right? And so some closing rooms can fit a number of people safely with distance, and some closing rooms are much more tighter, and it's more difficult to get that many people around a room like that. And so in some areas we have asked or strongly encouraged the realtors, if you don't have to be at the closing, do your prep work prior to the closing and be available during the closing via phone call if you can. We don't like to say that. We know you don't want to hear that, but at this time, it's just tough to get that many bodies in some of our closing rooms. And so just communicate with our closer on the best way for your expertise to be involved during that closing process.
Thank you, Mike. I do have one question here. Is Security First doing any kind of e-signings, anything electronic for signings with closings yet?
Yes, all of our staff are prepared and our processes are in place for any document that can be e-signed. And currently here in Kansas, in the Wichita area, that'd be any document that doesn't require a notary. And so if the lender's in agreement with it, we can e-sign certain lender docs and our documents that don't require a notary. In Kansas, we don't have remote online notary options available yet. We're working on it right now in Missouri. The governor of Missouri has issued an executive order to allow us to do that in Missouri. And we anticipate Kansas might go that route. And if they do, we'll be prepared to handle those as well.
Wonderful. And then I think there were a couple, anyone else have any questions for Mike? I know we have a lot of questions going back to the EIDL and the PPP, and Dennis Clary down at our association had mentioned the other one, the Fed unemployment program. So I think that's a third program. But I think that was excellent to hear. And Mike, I can also in that follow up email, like I told Natalie, I will include in Marsha that link to the RPAC investments, but I can also include a link to that document or just include that document itself to help spread the word there of what Security First is doing. If anyone else has any questions specifically for our panelists, please let me know. You can chat that up. Otherwise, you can reach out to me afterwards and I can get that to the appropriate people, or you can just reach out directly. And I don't know enough to speak on any of these programs, and that can maybe be our mastermind for next week, but there'll also be that opportunity in the follow-up email for you guys to say, hey, let's talk about this, or bring on this person, or I want to hear from this person again. I'm just here to facilitate. I want to connect you guys and give you what you want and what you need right now, which is, advice and leadership and anything else that you might need. So thank you to every single one of you. I think we had up to 60 at one point on the call, and I appreciate all of your participation. Thank you to my panelists. I sincerely appreciate you trusting in me and joining this and taking time out of your busy schedules to do this. God bless all of you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Thank you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Sam.